Hey guys, welcome back to the Crochet with Kelsey channel. I've had this channel for quite a while now, and I realized that I never really shared my story of how I got into crochet, so I wanted to share that with y'all today. So my obsession with crochet plushies began when I started seeing a lot of crochet plushies on my Instagram feed. And whenever I clicked on them, I realized that they're kind of expensive. And at the time, I didn't have the disposable income to purchase any of them. So after seeing all these cute plushies over and over again on my feed, I decided that I could probably try to make them and that would be a cheaper alternative. And boy, was I wrong. I've always been a creative person, and I had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to learn how to crochet. So I asked for a crochet kit from my mom for Christmas, and she delivered. And it was this little penguin plushie, and I thought it would be, quick and easy to learn how to pick up crochet. And unfortunately, it did not come that easy to me. I tried and I tried and I tried to complete the magic ring, and I just was not having any luck at all. So I sat down every day for about 20 to 30 minutes, and I just tried to start the crochet plushie over and over again, and for some reason it was not clicking with me how to get the magic ring to close. I would get the stitches in there, but whenever it was time to pull the yarn to close the ring, it just wasn't working out for me. So I was really just ready to give up. So I got the kit for Christmas, and fast forward to New Year's, we met up with some of my friends, and one of my friends at the time had just learned how to crochet. So she kind of showed me the basics of how to crochet, how to do the magic ring, and though I still wasn't super confident that I knew how to do it, it definitely helped seeing it done in person rather than watching someone do it in a video. I took what I learned back with me, and after trying to start this little penguin plushie again, I finally got the magic ring. I felt so accomplished in that moment. I finally got it. I'm thinking, okay, I'm a pro now. So anyway, I look up all the other stitches in the pattern, which was a very simple pattern, basically just a ball with single crochets, increases and decreases. And along the way, I looked up every single stitch and figured out how to do it. Fast forward to a week or two later, and I finished my little crochet plushie. It took me a really long time to complete that first plushie, but as soon as I was done, I was immediately hooked, and I was super excited to start crocheting more plushies. I remember I posted it on Reddit, and I asked for any advice or for people to point out anything that I might have done incorrectly, and they quickly told me that I crocheted my entire piece inside out, and that's where I learned a very important piece of advice. Whenever you start crocheting amigurumi, the noodle needs to go inside the bowl. So that's the tail at the end of the magic ring. And I just had it flipped outside rather than flipping my piece and putting the noodle inside the bowl, but I never made that mistake again. So almost immediately, whenever I finished the penguin, I decided to move on to another crochet project, and now looking back at it, I probably picked one that was way too hard. It was a little giraffe, and I actually still have it, and this is what it looks like. It kind of looks, I think I did this one inside out too. I thought I learned my lesson, but maybe not. Maybe I had started this before I posted my picture on Reddit, because yeah, it is very clearly inside out. But I mean, like, overall for my second piece ever, I don't think it's like that bad. Obviously, like, yeah, I way overstuffed it and the stitches aren't even, but I mean, it could be worse, right? So it's always fun to look back at this little giraffe and just see how far I've come since then. Before crochet entered my life, I actually had a different small business. I sold wax melts, and my business name was Whimsy and Wax Co. So my whole thing was that I made wax melts in unique shapes. So I had a bunch of different molds that I would use, and I had a ton of different scents to choose from. And for example, I had a little cookie mold, and I would make, snickerdoodle scented wax melts. So it was kind of whimsical, but I've always been the type of person who just wants to make as much money as possible, and I also always like having something to do. So probably like 2 years out of college, I was working my 9 to 5, and I was like, I need something else. So I actually did markets and had an Etsy business before I got into crochet, just for the wax melts. So it was definitely nice having a little bit of experience in that realm before just jumping into it for the first time. And just from my wax melt business, I knew that I loved that whole market experience and the sense of community that you get from it. And I just really enjoyed it, and it was really cool to see people want to buy stuff that I made with my own two hands. I've always been drawn to cute things, so I think that's why I kind of made the leap to plushies, especially after seeing so many adorable ones on Instagram. And I was ready to dive headfirst into crocheting as my little side hobby on the side from my wax melt business. A girl can never have too many hobbies, right? So I continued my crochet journey. I started buying new patterns, and from those I started learning some new techniques, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And it was nice to have something else to do on the side other than just making wax melts all the time. Before long, I had a lot of crochet plushies that were kind of building up, just kind of sitting in a corner in our home. And Nick actually suggested, hey, why don't you take some of these to the market? Because I already had one that I was signed up for to sell my wax melts at. So I probably had about 15 to 20 plushies at that time, and that was a few months in. And I'm not gonna lie, some of the pieces were not good at all. I didn't sell like my very, very first ones that I made, but I feel like I quickly picked up the skill, and then, you know, I was experimenting with different yarns. So by that point, I had started using like a lot of Parfait Chunky and similar yarns. At that market, I actually made more money selling my plushies than I did selling my wax melts. So my wax melts ranged in price from like $4 to $8. At almost every market that I would go to, there was a ton of people selling similar items. It was just hard to be profitable starting up. Plus it takes so much time to, you know, work over the stove and kind of get everything made for the wax melts. But that was kind of my moment to where I was like, okay, I can make money doing this too. So I saw that it was more profitable, and then over the next year, I kind of shifted gears towards phasing out the wax melts and starting to bring more plushies. I know it probably looked really weird if you went up to my booth, because it's like half wax melts, half plushies, and people were probably like, what's going on? But I still had customers coming for both things, so I guess it didn't really matter that much. But once I completely phased out the wax melts, I decided that it was probably time to change my business name. So that's how Crochet with Kelsey was born, and I started to be just a crochet business. That is one leap in my life that I am so happy that I took, because it is extremely rewarding. Aside from the business aspect, crochet is really important to me because it's something that me and my family have been able to bond over. My mom and grandmother were actually crochet queens back in the day, and they made a lot of blankets and accessories for the house. And the women in my family have always been super crafty, so I feel like that kind of trickled down to me. And with my newfound passion for crochet, I was actually able to get my mom back into it, which was super cool. And I even showed her how to make amigurumi, and we were able to bond over the plushies that we made. We would be constantly sending pictures back and forth. If my mom was having trouble figuring out a certain stitch or needed help reading a pattern, I was there for her. So I really think it's cool how a hobby like this can kind of strengthen the bonds that you have with your family. I also have childhood memories of going over to my grandma's house, and she was a huge crocheter. She had so much crochet stuff that she made, and she absolutely adored it. And she taught me how to do a chain, so I would go over there and I would just make a chain for probably miles, because that's all I knew how to do. I never really wanted to get into learning how to do more stitches at that point because I was young. But if I would have started back then, just imagine how good I would be now. So my grandma is now 96 years old, and unfortunately she has dementia, and she's not really able to form meaningful conversations anymore, and she doesn't really know who I am whenever I go to see her. But I'll usually bring my crochet over there whenever I do go visit, and she becomes visually engaged in what I'm doing. So even though she might not remember who I am, I feel like in her subconscious, she is remembering that this is something that she loved to do. So it's kind of a way that I feel like I can still connect with my grandma, and you can tell that she gets happy whenever I give her a plushie, and her room is actually decorated with them. And I kind of feel like that's just a way that she can kind of remember me even if she doesn't remember me. So for me personally, crochet is more than just a hobby or business. It's something that's been able to connect me with the women in my family, and it's really cool to see that crochet has been passed down for 3 generations. So after I've started crocheting for a while, I decided to dive right into the pattern testing world, and I remember I would apply for so many tests, like anyone that came across my feed, and I was so thrilled when I finally got picked for my first test. It was from Crochet by Kitten Girl, and it was a little cat plushie, and I was blown away because she had so many followers, and I had been following her for a long time, like before I even started crocheting. So it was a surreal moment to realize that she was gonna give me a chance, and I was fangirling a little bit. Another pattern test that I did that was like huge for me, that I got so excited about, was testing Zach, aka Crochet Me Zaddy's little Devil Buddy pattern, and I was fangirling over that too because he's also somebody that I followed before I started crocheting, and I always was just in love with his personality and how cute his plushies were, and he was like somebody that I aspired to be. Through these pattern tests though, you build relationships that are not just online, they are real. You meet so many people from all different walks of life, and you're able to connect over this one thing that you share, a love of crochet. So fast forward a couple of years, and Zach, who was like my crochet idol, actually came to the States, and we met up and we hung out, and it was awesome. It's so cool that the crochet community goes beyond what's on the screen. We're actually interacting in real life. And I know that the relationships that I'm making, even though it might be over Instagram, are real and they mean something, and we're a part of each other's lives, even if we don't see each other every day. I also met some other crochet friends more recently. I met Kendall from KP Crochet Creations, Millie from Red Mills Crochet, Britt from Nerdy Girl Crochets, and Erin, aka the Crochet Carpenter. Meeting up with them in real life just goes to show that this community is so strong. Even though we just share one similar interest, we can all be friends. And I just love being able to still make new friends when I'm in my late 20s, because I feel like that's an opportunity that not everybody gets. So I just want to shout out all of my crochet besties out there. I love you guys, and I want to thank y'all for all of your support. As I became more comfortable with crocheting, I decided I wanted to give making my own patterns a go. And this actually started whenever I was looking for a very specific pattern. I wanted a lion, and I couldn't find any that I really liked the style of. So I said, I'm just gonna create my own. So that is where Lenny the Lion was born. And fun fact, Lenny, although he was my very first crochet pattern, has sold more copies than any of my other crochet patterns, which is just so crazy. And I feel like I got really lucky with my first pattern, but I'm also just extremely proud of it. And I just love him. Like, still to this day, I'm not like looking back at my first pattern and I'm like embarrassed of it. I'm super happy with the way that it turned out, and I'm honestly impressed with myself for being able to produce this as my very first crochet pattern. I feel like after crocheting for so long, you pick up how to make the different shapes. So this is a relatively simple pattern. I was super proud of the mane though, because that was like the hardest part for me to figure out. But I honestly just feel like pattern designing is something that comes naturally to me. As long as I have an idea in mind, I can pretty much bring it to life. And I'm so grateful that I have that skill, because I absolutely love pattern designing. It is one of my favorite parts of crochet. So I started off making mostly animals. I did a lot of animals. So after crocheting animals for a long time, I felt like I needed a new creative challenge, because all of my animals pretty much had the same body style, and I had some different dogs and different types of animals that were a little bit different, but I wanted to branch out from this style into something more unique. So I kind of moved into the mythical creature realm, and it all started with Gizmo the Goblin, and you can see my little fluffy monster series back there. At the same time, I was also like obsessed with fluffy yarns, so that's kind of why they're all fluffy, I think. And then from there, I was able to create another one of my best sellers, which is Moss the Sprite Snuggler. And he's super simple, but I just like creating these little characters that don't actually exist and that I dreamed up in my head because it's just really fun to see them come to life. Fast forward to my latest pattern, and it's kind of a hybrid of the two. It's Willow the Woodland Wonder, and she's like a mythical deer. So it's kind of funny because I started with animals, moved on to totally mythical, and then now I'm kind of at a mythical animal hybrid. It's also been fun to try different things besides plushies. I really enjoyed designing my bookmarks, and it's kind of a hybrid of like a plushie head on a bookmark, but I don't know, I've just been having so much fun with it, and there's nothing more special than seeing what people can create with your pattern, because I make it, I see how I make it, but seeing other people's takes on it, seeing the colors that they choose, seeing the style that they have is just really rewarding. And I love pattern designing, and luckily most of my income from my small business comes from pattern designing. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because if I chose to do markets every single weekend, I would be so much more stressed out than I usually am. When I'm not preparing for markets though, I do find crochet as a very relaxing hobby. I love just seeing things come together stitch by stitch. I love getting to choose a color palette. I love getting to choose some beautiful sync eyes for a new project. I just love crocheting. It's so much better than making wax melts because I can sit on the couch while I do it. I can still make money from it, and I'm just having a really great time. It's surreal to see something that started as a hobby turn into a business, turn into an Etsy shop, turn into a Patreon and a YouTube, and I'm just so thankful for the journey that I've had, and I'm grateful for everyone who supported me along the way. If you're a crocheter and I've ever talked to you, I just want to say thank you for making this journey so much more fun. It's also super rewarding just to see how the people in my life, my friends and my family, have supported me, and I'm so lucky to get that, because I know that not everyone has that support system that really encourages them to go out and try to achieve their goals. And my friends still come to my markets and they still try to buy stuff, and I try to just give it to them, but they insist on paying. And all of my close friends have like a little crochet shrine of things that I've either gifted them or they've bought. I wouldn't be able to pursue my journey if I didn't have such amazing people in my life rooting me on, especially my fiance, Nick. Nick has been my #1 supporter from the very, very start of my crochet journey. He always encouraged me to keep going, keep trying, you'll get better, you'll sell more. And he helps me set up at every single market, and he sits by my side. I truly feel like the luckiest girl in the world to have him. I hope you enjoyed listening to me share my story of how I got into crochet. I love a good getting started story, so please leave a comment telling me how you got into crochet. I would love to read them all. Thank you guys for being here. Every single person that's watching this is also a part of my crochet journey. So thank you for being here. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I do want to warn y'all that next week's video is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be really as crochet related, but it's something that I just absolutely have to talk about. So get ready for that. I think y'all will like it, and I think it's going to be fun. See you next time.